Hey, hello, welcome to Fieros' story time with me, Fieros Reborn, on the channel of Fieros Reborn. And I would just like to show you a couple of pieces of artwork that I have made recently, because they're cool and they are for sale. Well, this one's not entirely for sale just yet because it doesn't have a frame, but when I framed it, it will be for sale. Don't know exactly what the price will be yet because it doesn't have the frame, but when it has the frame, it will be priced as well, I presume. I mean, I'm making it up, so yeah, but it's probably going to be more than you would expect. Yeah, and then you have this one, which does have a frame. God damn it. In a way, actually, now that I look at it, this one reminds me of the background. Look, it kind of blends in with the busyness of the background, doesn't it? It's that same feeling of all different stupid colours all arranged higgledy-piggledy. So that's interesting. I can't really keep it still while it's there because it doesn't make any sense. There you go, keep it still like that. So that's one of them. That is for sale. I don't know what price it is. It took me about 3 weeks, so the original I think should go for loads of money. And then you have this one, which I made today, which is incredibly bright. It's incredibly bright. It's luminous. It kind of lights up the room. So I'm going to put this in the background as it was before, because it's cool. It's actually kind of hot. It's a very vibrant piece. There you go. And there it will be. So let's crack on now with the Fieros' story time with my little artwork in the background. Oh, God. This has been going on for ages, this Fieros' story time. And I'm a bit lost. And it's bizarre. My life is... I hate my life. My life is weird. It's bizarre. It's getting boring. I think I'm going to go do some stand-up comedy soon. I keep talking about it. I used to do a course every now and again. I've done a few different stand-up comedy courses. I think I've done 3 stand-up comedy courses in my life. I feel like maybe I should put that piece of artwork somewhere where it's constantly visible, because otherwise my head is kind of in the way of it all the time. Let's put it over here. There. Maybe is it constantly visible there? Yeah, that's better. And then if I sit here, then it will be constantly visible. So, yeah, obviously my hair's a little bit flat today. I'm just trying out a different thing. So, stand-up comedy, because it'll give me another a way to vent my feelings in public, and there's a higher energy field involved in stand-up comedy than just sitting in a room, which has a positive side and a negative side. The positive side is that it will really clear me out energetically quite quickly. The negative side is that when you've got a bad audience, the feeling is horrendous, and that's just amplified, you know, because the energy of lots of attention could go towards a positive of a very bright, vibrant, uplifting experience, or a very negative experience where everything gets pulled into a downward spiral with the attention going downwards rather than going upwards. So yeah, I went through a period when I was depressed where I did some stand-up comedy. I did these 2 courses. I did one course. Oh God, actually, yeah, no, this does tie into my Fieros' storytime story, my mental health type of story, because there was a period where I was doing a course at the comedy school in London, which is an actual establishment. It's not like a proper school, but it's called the Comedy School, and it's run by a few people who run comedy courses, and like they do comedy workshops for different things, whether it's for actually learning comedy because it's something you want to do, or they do it as like corporate events, you know, like a kind of for help with public speaking, for group bonding, whatever, you know, companies, that kind of thing. Anyway, I did this, I don't know where it came up, how it came up, but I was into comedy. Oh God, yeah, even when I was with Mr. B, I was doing a lot of comedy, stand-up comedy at that time. I mean, I was running this open mic night in Reading at the Students' Union, which involved me doing like a bit of, did I say comparing? Yeah, comparing. So I was running it in terms of like just getting people on the list and introducing them. That was the compare aspect. I mean, that was all I really was doing in terms of running it. I say running it because I was just facilitating the performers getting on stage and keeping them in the right order and stuff. But I wasn't doing the sound. You know, there was a couple of sound guys doing the sound, and obviously the bar, I wasn't running the bar. So when I say I was running it, it just makes me sound big to say that I was running it. I mean, I was the person who showed up and took people's name down on the list. And there was actually a bit of a kerfuffle around that because the Students' Union bar manager got a bit upset that I was taking over her event, because it was supposed to be a Students' Union event run by the bar, and I'd come in and to be fair, it was actually originally made by the Campaigns Forum. It was a Campaigns Forum open mic night thing, and they were the ones who hosted it before, and then because I was part of that, I then started hosting it. So yeah, but the bar manager got a bit shirty because I was taking too much control and I was writing people's names down on a list, and that wasn't allowed. And I was the compare, and one of the other managers, a higher level manager, was saying that it was starting to turn into the Ross show. I was like, yeah, well, you're kind of right, because I was getting excited about the opportunity to perform my comedy stuff, but I was obviously spending more and more time on stage without realising that I was just hogging the stage time. So I got told off a couple of times, which was annoying. And then they got one of the bar staff to take people's names down, and they cut me off from the comparing after a while. Man, I am not good at keeping jobs. I was getting paid for that as well. That was cool. I got paid like 40 quid. I got paid the same amount as a bar staff member. It was cool, man, to do the comparing. That was a real paid gig. And then I blew it by being too greedy. But whatever. That was cool to be paid for. Yeah, I got a little pay slip and everything. I got a fucking pay slip, man. That was rock and roll, man. Yeah. That was so weird to be paid for that job. And damn it, I was on the payroll for that. That was cool. I mean, I did it for a long time. Quite a number of weeks, months, I don't know how long exactly I did it for. Long enough to be paid quite a few times, before I got kicked off. Man. I miss those days. I miss my uni days. My uni days were cool. My uni days were frisky and flirty, but not really. They were just cool, man. I felt good at uni. I felt good. And then had this idiot boyfriend in the background who was dragging me down. Maybe I should go back to uni. This is something that keeps coming up as well. Maybe I should go back to uni. Maybe I should finish my damn art course. I mean, I've done art for so long. Surely I could breeze through my art course now. If I just did art, plain and simple art, then surely I could get a first or even a second, or I could at least get a degree, bloody hell, of some kind, of some level from my artwork. Yeah. And being a mature student, I think I may well find it easier, because I just don't care as much whether I fail or not as I did before. not that I really cared about failing. I would be more streamlined in my approach to it, basically. Like, I would actually work on the stuff that I was supposed to do and that I had intended to do, and be less dragged around by all the various other different activities. Then again, I might go back to uni and just go, oh, there's all these random societies that I want to get involved in, and let's do this random shit again. And let's burn out again, but let's burn out much better than last time. Yeah. So I probably would go back and do stuff like open mic and radio shows. Maybe not the campaigning so much. Maybe not that at all. Maybe I'll just like, meh, fuck that one off. But if there was some kind of art society, or might start running creative workshops of my own there. I think I need to go back to uni. Oh, but it's money, isn't it? It's money, bloody hell. Debt. I don't want to get into more student loan debt. I don't like that feeling of the student loan. Even it's only at £4,000 in the background, roughly, at the moment, from that 1 year I did, and I don't like that feeling. Anyway, so to add more to that, it's just not cool. Oh yeah, so the stand-up comedy thing is another option to do when I stop doing these videos, because remember, they're going to be stopping. I'm going to stop them when I get the story up to the point of being at the 2014 junction of boom, boom, boom. That was the point when I stopped taking medication of any kind, and I weaned myself off it over a period of about a month, around December 2013. Dun, dun, dun. Bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. No medication. Yeah. Okay. Stand-up comedy. Yeah, it feels like that's one of the things that is me, you know, when you feel like you're me self, when you're like, that's me, that's what I do, that's my thing, that's one of my things, that's me, I do that, that's all about me, you know, that's me, when I do that, I'm me, I am me when I do that, that's my true me, that's my me self, that's me doing that right there, I'm the one doing that, but it's not I, it's me, me, but it's a good kind of me. It's not it's not a lame me. It's that true self, personal expression self. It's not like a needy me. It's like, this is who I am. I'm being myself, and it's a real true expression of me, of this individual self. It's not about the self-image of the self. It's about this true vibrancy coming through, and you know, when I used to do stand-up comedy, I did always used to feel like I was really being myself, and I would love to be on stage, being silly and saying stupid shit, pretty much like I do on this channel, but with the benefit of having fun with people as well who are also having fun, not just me shoving things up my nose in a little room in my mum's house, or my mum and dad's house. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Oh yeah, so I was saying I did these courses. So I did this one comedy course at the comedy school, which I'm trying to just look up, comedy school, London, and hooper. The first little one I did was a brief evening course in a November of some kind. Or was it maybe a weekend thing? I can't remember. Yeah, maybe it was a weekend thing. Yeah, it was a 2-day introduction thing. Could have even been this same thing that we've got here on the website, which is called Introduction to Improvisation, because I was all about improvisation. Yeah. So I went to this thing, and it's run by the same person still, Keith Palmer. Cool guy, decent guy. And I might go back and do another one, because they're just fun. The courses are fun, man. Although there's this one stupid guy who's like one of the resident comedian guys. His name is Rudy. His name's just showing up on here. Sorry, 1 second. It will come back up. Rudy something. He's like one of the kind of helpers who is associated with the comedy school, and he does like this sort of feedback session once every now and again as part of the 6-week course. There's a 6-week course on here as well. Which is, I did a 6-week course. Was it a 6-week? Or it felt like it was longer than 6 weeks. Maybe it was 8-week at that time, or 10 weeks, something like that. But I did a course. Okay, and it was around this time when I'd come back from America, and I did 2 different courses. I did this comedy school one, and then I did a music production course at a music university or music college, which I believe was LCCM, London College of Contemporary Music. LCCM. So I did this, like, yes, of creative media. London College of Creative Media, the independent music college in London. Yeah, so I used to go up to there for a 10-week music production course. I did that as well, and that was the time when I used to pop into this brass and wind instrument shop and ask them if they had any guitars, or if they had any typewriters or something, or if they had any drum kits, and and if they sold like VCRs or something. I just used to pick things that they obviously didn't have and go and wind them up every week with a new item that they obviously didn't have, because it was obviously a very specific shop. And they got really tired of it after a few weeks. But as I said on another video, it's like I did it so irregularly that they could kind of forget that I was like going to show up every Saturday at like 10 AM. And then I'd go, "Oh, do you have any lettuce?" And they'd be like, "No, we're a brass instrument shop." And I'm like, "Not really." And I'd kind of pretend to be foreign as well. That's the thing. I'd be like, "Hello, do you have any do you have any do you sell cars in here? Where are the cars?" You know, and they say, "No, go away, that's enough now." So that was amusing from my perspective. From their perspective, it was probably just maybe mildly amusing for like half a second the first time I did it, and then afterwards it got annoying. Okay, so I did that, and yeah, so I did these other courses as well, these stand-up comedy courses. So I did the improv one, which is, I swear it was a weekend, where we learned about improv. And then like there was this comedian guy who showed up to give like a little question and answer session. What was his name? Adam Blake, Adam Blake, Adam Blank. I don't know. He was kind of well known for a period in the 20s, 2010s. No, 20s, the 20s, the 2000s, the zeros, the zeros is the noughts, the naughties, fuck's sake. Yeah, sorry. I can't remember his fucking name though. Adam White? I don't know. He was well known enough for me to go, I've kind of heard of that person. But something that struck me from him was that he looked like the most on-edge person I had ever met. He was sat in this chair, right, being asked these questions by us lot. Nothing particularly drastic, and you know, we weren't throwing any curveballs particularly, just asking about what it's like to be on the comedic live comedy circuit at a professional level. And he was like sat, he had this kind of really agitated feeling about him, like he was sort of scratching his arm a little bit, and he was kind of like looking elsewhere, and he just had this kind of real anxious look about him, like he wanted to be elsewhere or something, and he was just like not completely uncomfortable being there. And so sort of like something said to me that, okay, well, don't be like him. Because it just seemed like, and this is something I've noticed about quite a few comedians, is that when they're not doing comedy, they feel really out of place. So that sometimes comedians have a very fragile sense of self-worth unless they're performing. and that can be not just for comedians but any kind of performer, whereby they get their main feeling of being loved and attended to and cared for when they're performing, because they got all these people looking at them and laughing and giving them attention and listening to them and stuff. And then when they're not on stage, they become a bit of a wreck, or they're just a lot more socially awkward. They are potentially even bastard-like, you know, really nasty, or they're agitated, and so it's like, because or just jittery, pardon me. Yeah, I mean, like, I could imagine as well, I was just thinking about Robin Williams earlier on, because obviously he killed himself, and I was thinking, well, what sort of drove him to do that? And I know that it was because he'd found out that he had Alzheimer's or something developing, wasn't it? Or was it Parkinson's? I think it was Alzheimer's. Yeah, some kind of dementia that he found out about. But I was just kind of imagining into his situation and thinking, like, I can imagine him being a bit uncomfortable if he wasn't being funny. Yeah. And then someone like Lee Evans as well. He seems like he's kind of a bit unstable off stage. Like a lot of comedians are very codependent, in that they have to be other oriented. They have to be kind of always attending to other people, and making sure other people are okay. And part of the comedic impulse is that making other people laugh is like to stop them from hurting you, kind of thing. So you make people laugh so that they won't be mean to you, so they'll leave you alone, so that they're on your side, and so that if they're okay as well, if they're happy, if you're entertaining people and making other people happy, then you feel good about yourself because you're being useful or helpful or something. So there are, not every comedian obviously, but there are a lot of comedians who are very insecure, and it seems like the only place that they can really feel alive and okay in themselves. This is just generalizing, okay? Yeah, I'm not just. This is generalizations, where they're a bit fragile off stage, and I certainly went through a period of that where I had to be funny all the time and felt like I was performing. That a lot of my life was basically a performance. And trying to make other people laugh and stuff. And there's still a little bit of that now, but something has changed and mellowed in me and matured. I think possibly because I stopped doing so many performances, and also obviously had a lot of therapy and stuff, that I started to feel more comfortable in myself, that I'm okay to be me if I'm not being interesting, or if I'm not making people laugh, or if I'm not showing off anything, or if I don't have anything to display. You know, if I'm being vulnerable, or even if I'm just being myself, being normal, not particularly anything, like not this or that, not happy or sad, just being myself, that I feel like I don't have to act or perform for anyone anymore, but I can do it if I want to. You know, if it's something that I feel that, if it feels fun to do it, then I will. Yeah, but there was certainly a long period of time where if I wasn't being funny, then I wouldn't have any other real relationship tools, if that makes sense. So I'd be constantly cracking jokes all the time, and then I wouldn't be able to go further than that very often. Which is annoying for me, and probably for other people as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still play that Joker role, I quite often, but that feels more like an expression of me. I would like to be able to be more honest with my feelings with my friends, and just be more straightforward, you know, be more, have less of a jokey edge to me. I do still put a jokey edge to a lot of the things that I say. Not always, but there is a sense that maybe I'm hiding behind some character persona of me with my friends, where, like, I don't know, I'm using more of a character than I am relating clearly and simply, because it's kind of easier to go along with a character most of the time. I mean, I do break out of it. I do, like, have moments where I'm just being honest instead of being silly. But I don't know. It's like, it's how I feel about how I want to talk, or it's more like what comes naturally. I don't force it anymore. Like I don't say, oh, now I'm going to be funny and now I'm going to be serious. It's like, if I'm serious, I'm serious. If I'm funny, I'm funny. Or silly, I'm silly, whatever. Yeah. Okay, and then I did 2 other courses of comedy. Both were the Chris Head comedy course. So Chris Head, strange surname, Head. I always found that weird. Chris Head comedy course. And so if you're interested in comedy, these are some options I'm throwing out there for you. Stand-up course. So there are actually some videos. There's at least one video of me on YouTube. If you type in probably Chris Head comedy Ross Wilson, that might get you on YouTube. You might get you might get that video come up. I'll find it and I'll put a link in the description for you. But yeah, so that was me when I was a bit younger. And so Chris Head did, I don't know if he still does it, I can't seem to find it just now. He used to do a comedy course, which was, I believe, a 12-week course. And the funny thing was, for some reason, I felt like it would be different the second time round, right? So I did it once, I enjoyed it. One of the things I really enjoyed about his course, and actually all of the courses I've ever done, is that you get a lot of safe stage time, where you've got an audience who is used to you and who knows you after the first week. The ice has been broken and you're playing to the same crowd because these are your fellow students, so you get a chance to build up some rapport and some continuity over time. So you get a feeling of safety to try out your persona in different ways and try out different gags and stuff without much deadness, because the problem with live comedy is that the audience is basically random and also area dependent. So not only is it random, but it's also dependent on where you are, the types of people who are coming into the gig. So with the combination of the randomness of people and the area you're in, you could have, for example, a night where you're in an area that you didn't realise was particularly right-wing or left-wing or has certain values or certain traditions, and you go and trample on all of their views and offend everyone. Plus, with the added element of randomness, you get like 5 real rotter dickheads who have come out for a stag night or something, but they're really like abrasive asshole type lads, whatever, guys, who are all drunk and really rowdy. So combine that with pissing all over the kind of culture or views of that particular area or particular social group, and then you've got a recipe for either being beaten up after a show or just the most horrendous on-stage feeling you've ever had. So yeah, bad gigs can be really bad, but the nice aspect of the comedy course is that you don't really get a bad gig because everyone knows you, and if you're reasonably funny, then people will they're warm. It's a warm crowd, so it's easy. It's an easy gig and it's fun, but obviously you're not getting paid for it, you're paying for that. And then when you go out into the real world, it's a very different kettle of fish. And I actually stopped the second course about halfway through doing the Chris Head course. I did it twice. I did it once and then I waited about 6 months or a year or something, and then I went and did it again. I thought it was going to be exactly the same. As in, no, I thought it was going to be different. I thought I'd have a kind of different experience because, you know, a different group and maybe Chris was going to do the course differently, I don't know. But it turned out it was exactly the same material that he was using, the course material. He hadn't changed it. He didn't even change the words that he said to introduce the material. He almost said everything he said in the first course exactly the same on the second course, like as though it was just a script that he just reads through from his mind every time he does it, with very slight variations. The only variation between course to course was the fact that it was a different set of people, so he was giving different feedback, because he was obviously giving specific feedback to each participant, each member of the group. When they did their performances, he would give a little bit of feedback afterwards about where to improve, or suggestions, or what he liked and stuff like this. So yeah, I mean, it was good overall, but just doing it a second time, I was like, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous, because he is actually just repeating exactly the same things he has said last time. And I was having a bit of a depression feeling at that time anyway, so I just like, I don't know why I'm doing this, I can't be bothered with it, and something else came up as well, which was my comedic persona was being challenged by the group, because I was presenting quite dark material in a very upbeat way, and there was a clash, a disconnect between my subject matter and the way I was presenting it, so it was causing a confusion for people. Like, I was talking about these really deep, dark, psychological, depressing subjects, and I was just joking about them. Yeah, and they wanted me to play it as maybe a bit more like of a Jack D kind of somber, playing the depressed, jaded approach, but I didn't feel like that was a true spontaneous expression of myself, because my feeling of comedy is a light-hearted, jovial feeling. I don't really play the somber character very well, so I couldn't do that. So it just wasn't working, and I was having a crisis of confidence in myself about continuing the course. And I went for a couple more sessions, and then I just bailed out. I think I bailed out on like week 8, so I just couldn't do it. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So that stuff was happening. I did the first course, the comedy course, in I think 2007, and I did the music production course in 2007 as well. And this was around that same time when I was causing the family chaos. And so I finished those courses. I was then asking my mum and dad to pay for me to go and do it was like a degree in guitar or something at one of these other schools. There's another music school called, oh god, I can't remember what it is now. But they had these courses called Guitar X London, Guitar X course, Drum Tech Music School, I think it must have been Tech Music School. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, well, the point was that they wouldn't pay for it anyway, so they said no. I was like, oh man. So I guess that I just was seeing my parents as a bit of a kind of bank, that they would just pay for me to do any courses I wanted to do, because I wanted to do them, because the universe will provide all my wants and wishes, and the universe boiled down to my parents, basically. But they said no. Even though I did the, what do you call it? I did the audition thing for the guitar course, and I didn't pass it actually, because my music knowledge was not good enough. My skills were okay, but my music knowledge was not very good. Yeah, and my ability to pick stuff up quickly from notation was just not very good at all. So I didn't do it. I didn't get it, and my parents weren't going to pay for me to do it anyway, so that didn't work. And then it was pretty soon after that I got sectioned, I feel. So it's really strange, because like, on the one hand I was doing these courses, music courses and the stand-up comedy course, and I was like still progressing my career in that sense, like still learning and still doing these things. And then on the other sense, like, everyone thought I was mad as well. So it's weird because I felt like I was going in a direction that I wanted to go in by following the skills I was interested in, and then my parents were just of the opinion that I was insane. So it's such a confusing period in my life to look back on, because it's like so many different elements at play. Because we had spirituality in there as well. We had relationship stuff going on as well. We had all these mystical experiences, and then I was going on these courses, and it's just very strange. Like, nothing really worked in that phase of my life. So although I did the courses and stuff, nothing came to anything. Yeah, like, sort of everything only went so far, and then nothing further came of it. So it's bizarre, really bizarre. The amount of courses I've done in my life, good lord. And they've all gone nowhere. I've never sort of followed any one particular of them through. Or it's never seemed, nothing seems to have suggested itself as to what to do next afterwards. Weird. Okay. I feel like I'm always constantly at an angle today. I'm like sort of this way or that way, and I'm never dead on. So I'm gonna sit cross-legged and try and go straight on. I feel a bit like PewDiePie. PewDiePie is always like this. He's always talking to you like this. If you've noticed, he's never straightforward. Like that. Even that scene, was that straight on? It's hard to tell. Right, well, whatever. Yeah, okay, so let's talk about being sectioned, because this is obviously an important part of the whole story. This is pretty much the meat of the story, which is me being sectioned and going into hospital. Well, I mentioned in the last video that I refused to play ball basically with the sectioners. I was like, I refuse to talk to these people because it's an affront to my dignity and they shouldn't be here, and the very fact that they think I'm insane is insane in itself. So I refuse to talk, and I'm not going to dignify these stupid questions with answers, because why should I answer these questions when they're coming from this really judgmental place? So not having it, and I just sat there basically and just kind of like, well, they're asking me all these invasive questions about my mental state and presuming that there's already a mental health problem there, and it's like, just go away. This is really invasive, having four mental health professionals and my family all grilling me basically, and it's a horrible experience. But anyway, I did end up getting sectioned because I didn't communicate with them, and the police person took me away in the car, in a police car or whatever. Was it a police car or was it just like nurse's car? I don't know, but yeah, they stuck me in a car, police car, with my nurse, I think. Yeah, with my head community psychiatric nurse, CPN. Yes, community psychiatric nurse. My care coordinator. She's a community psychiatric nurse, and she was my care coordinator, which means she was like the highest nurse out of my team of nurses who would interchangeably come and meet with us, or meet with me or my family or whatever. So I don't recall there being much of a fuss. There might have been a little bit of a fuss about me being arrested, but I didn't make much of a fuss that time. There was another time where I did make a big, massive fuss about being arrested, but this first time I didn't kind of kick or scream or anything, but I did tell my dad to fuck off or something, apparently. I told him to leave my mum and to stop taking my abuse or something as well. But yeah, I got taken to Wexham Park Hospital, which is not very far away from where I live. It's about a 10-minute drive or less, to Ward 10, the psychiatric ward, which was the place where I actually went to originally to ask for an appointment to get booked in there, but they they just sent me away and sent me a letter for an appointment, which I never ended up going to. But this was like on the actual psychiatric ward itself, the locked ward. It's like a secure ward. It's not exactly a prison, but it's a secure hospital ward in that you have to have clearance to get out, or you have to have a leave form signed by a doctor or a nurse or someone to allow you out. And if you escape, then because you're under a section, it could be section 2 or section 3. I don't know. There are other sections as well, actually. But section is such a strange thing. What is a section? What is a Mental Health Act section? We've got section 2. So I got a section on a section 2 to begin with. Section 2 is part of the civil sections under the Mental Health Act. It provides for someone to be detained in hospital under a legal framework for an assessment and treatment of their mental disorder. So when it says detained, it means you have to stay there, you cannot go out. It's basically like being in prison, but much less security. There's hardly any security at all to being in a mental health hospital. It provides, so the section 2 of the Mental Health Act provides for someone to be detained in hospital under a legal framework. So the legal framework means basically that if you do escape, that the police force can bring you back. Yeah, and so you're there in a hospital for an assessment and treatment of your mental disorder. Okay, and then we've got another question here, which so there's section 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Mental Health Act 1983 and 2007. But we've just got a question here that says, how long does the section 2 last? The assessment section, which is a section 2, lasts up to 28 days. And I knew this because they give you a little pamphlet when you go into hospital about your rights and kind of what to expect, and a little bit of the timetable of how the hospital ward runs. The treatment section 3 lasts up to 6 months and can be renewed for a further 6 months, then annually. I need to talk about that later. The section sucks. It's basically a prison sentence that can be extended for however long they feel like it, depending on what they think your mental health problem is at the time. This section, section 2 assessment. Under section 2, so this is the sectioning that I got on the first time round. I was under a section 2, which is an assessment section. Okay, Mental Health Act 1983, it says here. Under section 2, you can be kept in hospital for up to 28 days. Up to 28 days. So a 28-day period. I presumed that I'd be able to just roam free again, but no, because it's an assessment section, so it's with a view to figuring out a treatment plan for you. So they don't usually keep you. I mean, some people go in for a brief period of time and they get assessed, and they are assessed to be returned back to the community. Because it might just be the first time that they've been hospitalised, or it might be the first time that they've had any contact with the mental health services. But I'd been in contact with the early intervention team, so like there was a history of that they were building up of my condition. So if someone, for example, has just come in there because they've had a bit of a breakdown and gone a bit woo, because they've been overly stressed or burnt out from work or something, or some family situation or a domestic situation, their mental health has suddenly deteriorated really quickly in a stress-induced way, they may end up just going to hospital for a brief period. Like a few people who I saw in the second hospital, they came in and they were kind of gone within like a week or something, because they just only needed a little bit of time, and then they went back to care in the community, or they just went back to work or something, I don't know. And some people, I think they came in for like 10 days or something, and then they probably got transferred to a more secure unit because they're a little bit more dangerous, or a little bit more kind of had different needs than that particular ward could provide. I'll speak about that stuff in a bit. So let's go back to this. Section 2, you can be kept in hospital for up to 28 days. This section gives doctors time to decide what type of mental disorder you have, presuming you do have one, presuming there is such a thing as mental disorder, by the way, if you need any treatment and how treatment would affect your health. And then it says, an approved mental health professional is more likely to use Section 2 than Section 3 if you've never been assessed in hospital before or you have not been assessed for a long time. A psychiatrist may offer you treatment. If you refuse treatment, the staff may be able to give it to you without your permission. Which sucks, because that doesn't happen in normal medical situations, does it? I don't know. Does it? Are they allowed to just pump you full of stuff that you don't want? I'm not sure. There's such an issue here with like the rights of a human being, human rights, and the person's rights, and then the rights of the medical establishment to just do whatever they want with you under their duty of care. You're like, well, I don't want it, or I don't believe in it, or I don't want medications because I don't believe in medications, and I don't want to put random stuff in my body that I have no idea what the long-term side effects could be, or even the short-term side effects, like, and you are basically shoving this stuff in me without my permission, and will forcibly hold me down if I refuse, as it says. So it says, when can I be detained? You can be detained if you have a mental disorder, if you are unwell enough to need to be in hospital for an assessment, and if people think you should be in hospital for your own health or safety or to protect other people. So, yeah. Okay, well, basically, I got in there. The first ward was Ward 10 of Wexham Park Hospital, and I kind of feel like I was just dumped in there. So there was this little meeting room where I went into the meeting room with my care coordinator Sarah and probably the ward manager. I believe it was a Friday, or it was a Friday or a Saturday. It was like a Friday kind of afternoon, evening when I got put in there. And that meant that it was just in time for the weekend. So weekends, the staff situation over weekends is different to in weekdays. Like, there's less staff over the weekend. So I kind of got in there on a Friday. My care coordinator then fucked off somewhere. So I was in this like kind of, she just went off to do her next job, her next person, to next appointment, whatever. And so like I was suddenly in this new place with all these random people. I'm not allowed to leave. I don't really know why I'm there. I don't think I should be there. I'm suddenly trapped, detained, whatever, in this bizarre environment with all these bizarre people. No understanding of the structure there. Kind of being kept in the dark about how the whole thing works, like, and the decision-making process that is going on in the background as to why I'm there and how long I'm going to be there for, and all this crap. It's all kind of secret doctor conference, doctors talking about things and stuff. So it's very strange. Anyway, so I just kind of shoved in there, in this room. Got introduced to the manager. I can't remember her name, but she was nice enough. And then, as I say, my care coordinator, Sarah, just left, fucked off, very briefly, as in she was only there for about 5 minutes, kind of got me into hospital, and they was like, right, bye, see you then. I'm like, okay. And it's just, I suppose, a sense of abandonment happening there, and a sense of being lost, being left alone, and in complete unknowingness, like the complete dark, like as to what the hell is going on. Like, oh man, not good. Not a good feeling. An emptiness feeling, lost Lost is a good way to say it. Feeling lost, trapped, contained, unknowing, confused, lonely, like no one there. And my parents called me, and I didn't want to speak to them, but I eventually ended up talking to my mum, because I was so angry with my parents, basically, because they, from my perspective, it was all their fault that they'd made this happen, that they'd got all these mental health professionals involved, and they'd organised it such that I was going to be sectioned anyway, you know, because they kept pushing for me to be sectioned because they really, really believed that I was unwell. And I really, really believed that I was okay, that it was all a big, chronic, long-term misunderstanding that had got really out of hand. And as I'm going through this video series, I'm starting to think, well, maybe that was the case for a bit of it, and then maybe, you know, maybe I can't stick to that line completely, because there must have been something bad enough, distressing enough about my behaviour and the way I was talking or thinking or whatever for them to want to put me in a mental health place. But I still have to honour how I actually felt at the time, and that's part of the point of doing these videos, is to not take it from the other point of view, is to not take it from the therapist's point of view, from the doctor's point of view, the psychiatrist's point of view, the nurse's point of view, the family point of view, but to take it from my own point of view and to listen to that that person who I was, and to be, as I'm telling the story, to tell my story from my perspective, to tell it from that kind of past self's perspective who was not listened to. At least I can listen to myself, and at least whoever's watching these videos can listen to my point of view without there being a judgment on it. Because at the time, if I was to tell my story or to tell my point of view to anyone else, it was just taken as a sign of madness. So, you know, if I was ever to explain what I was going through, it was constantly being interpreted as symptoms and symptomized, or whatever, pathologized, if you like to call it that, mental health disorderized, and the interpretation of everyone around me was always gauged towards an illness interpretation, and I didn't get to feel like this was just something I was going through or an experience I was having that had positive and negative aspects to it. And I think the positive aspects are really overlooked. And I don't mean to say it in terms of, like, if you look through symptom profiles of psychosis, there will be some things called positive symptoms and negative symptoms, and it's a strange way that they use that terminology. I'm just using it from a sense of what felt good and what felt bad. So positive symptoms of my psychosis would have been, for example, there's these feelings of being in touch with the deeper meaning of life, of feeling like I was more connected to humanity than ever before, feeling like I was connected to my own spirituality, feeling like I was connected to my true self, knowing the oneness of all things, knowing I had this amazing experience where for a short period it felt like all people's voices, whenever people were speaking, it was all the one voice of humanity. And that was amazing, because I really knew that whenever people were speaking, humans were speaking, people, you know, on the TV, my family, whoever, that I could just sense that, really deeply sense and know and feel that everything was all coming from this one self, this one God. Humanity was expressing God through the human body and the human voice. So every time I was hearing people talk, I could just hear, I heard what they were saying, obviously the normal, like, aspect of what they were saying in terms of, you know, teas on the stairs, Ross, or whatever it is, or what are we going to do today, something like that. But there's an underlying understanding as well that I was hearing, which was like, this is coming from a really, this is God speaking through humans. This, like, every human, every person had the same quality to them, that it was like I just knew, and I felt and I heard God speaking through every person. So everyone's voice sounded like it was both their own voice, and they were saying all their normal stuff, but I also knew that it was deeply coming from God at the same time. So it's hard to describe that without it sounding whack, but it was an amazing experience, a really amazing experience, because it just sounded like one voice. Yeah, it was just one voice being spoken through lots of different people, and that was amazing. It didn't last for very long, but it was an amazing experience to feel like everyone was speaking. I could call it the voice of humanity. I just felt humanity of everyone, but the same sense of God at the same time. It's hard to distinguish. They seem to be kind of the same. Yeah. So okay. Right. So that was a really positive experience, amazing experience to have, which was a psychotic symptom, you know. Okay, well, I should try and say a bit more about the Wexham Park Hospital Ward 10. Well, I didn't stay there for very long. Apparently I only stayed there for 6 days. I thought it was more like 10. It felt long. It felt really long. So I was there on a section 2. 28 days, right? And you got given this little pamphlet that tells you your rights and stuff, whatever. And I was in this room, and there are all these windows, like a few windows, whatever, in my room, and they were all bolted down. So I was trying to think, what, I'm going to get a screwdriver or something and try and like jimmy them up or whatever, but it was totally impossible because they weren't even screwed down. They were like bolted with, I don't know, some kind of rivet thing, so it wasn't possible to hoik them up. So that was depressing. And the feeling of utter trappedness, basically, being in that little room and just looking out the window and like trying to figure out a way to escape, and I was just completely trapped and I couldn't escape. And I realised yesterday that maybe that's why I like to have my windows open in my room a lot, because having them closed brings me that same feeling of being trapped in a room where I'm not allowed to leave. But I've actually locked my windows for the first time in a long time with the actual key, because the damn pollution outside is so polluty at the moment. But it's interesting how it's coinciding with me talking about a period in my life where I was trapped in a room where the windows were locked. Okay, so there's a lot to say really about this ward stuff, because there's a lot of people who I met in there, and it's worth speaking about each person for a little bit of time and what was going on in there as well. But that's going to take some time. I'll give a brief overview of it now though, because it wasn't only right, so I'll give you a brief overview of these 2 hospitalisations. So the first one was in Ward 10 at Wexham Park. Then I escaped after the 6 days, right? And I'll tell you all about that as well as we go through this. I'm just giving you an overview of the whole thing. So I got sectioned. I got into Wexham Park Hospital for 6 days. I absconded, escaped, left, whatever. Escaped even further than that, as in like the police tried to bring me back, but I managed to evade them, which is an awesome story from my perspective anyway. And no one else was enjoying it, but I was loving this. And then I managed to find, coincidentally, I bumped into a friend while I was at Slough train station on the way to, don't know where I was actually on the way to, maybe Maidenhead. Not exactly sure why I was going there. I was just on my adventure to escape being caught and taken back to hospital, right? And I bumped into a random friend, or acquaintance, whatever, friend, probably acquaintance more, but then became more of a friend later on. But at that stage, he would have been just an acquaintance. And he was going to someone else who I knew, he was going to their house. And I went, yeah, okay, cool, I'll come with you. Because he invited me along. I was like, yeah, cool, because I spent time at that house before as well. I used to do gigs there for this person. Yeah, and like for his birthday parties and stuff like that, I did a couple of gigs, or a summer party and then a birthday party, something like that. They'd met me while I was busking. It was a lady and her teenage son, and I used to go around and do gigs occasionally. So we were going round to that person's house because they were going to have some kind of games night or something, and I showed up there, and they didn't exactly know why I was homeless or couldn't go back or was running away from my parents or whatever. They didn't know that I was also that I'd escaped the mental health hospital and I was on the run from the law. But they were just they just kind of took me in and accepted me, and I ended up staying there until the rest of that sectioning ran out. So I guess it was like 22 days or something, because I made a note of the time when the section started, and I just believed that, oh, after my section 2 ran out, that would be it and it would be fine and I could go back to my home and pick up some stuff, and then everything would be fine. But what happened was that I did go back to my house because I tried to go off to I tried to go to Heathrow Airport, I think it was, to go and get a flight to somewhere. Not that I had any money to do it, but I thought that maybe money would randomly show up, because I was in that sort of zone where I tended to believe that money might occasionally randomly show up. But it didn't. But also I got to Heathrow and I realised, where the fuck is my passport? My passport is not in the place that it normally is. And I was like, oh fuck, where the hell's my passport? And then got back to where I was staying and thought through things, looked through all my bags and stuff and didn't have it. And I was like, where the hell is it? It was normally in a specific place in my bag. And it just clocked, and I thought, oh, my parents must have nicked it. My parents must have taken hold of it because they don't want me to leave the country again, because they're scared of me dying or something in a different country and never finding me again or whatever. So I ended up coming back to here to get my passport with the pretty certain knowledge. In fact, I was pretty damn sure that they had it, because I couldn't have been anywhere else. I mean, I looked in my bedroom here before I accosted them. But then, yeah, I confronted them and said, you've got my passport. And then they started lying to me, basically. And that pissed me off because I could sense that they were lying. I knew that they were lying. So I got really angry, and I ended up banging on the drum kit that was in my room really loudly. And this was like at 11 o'clock at night, and making a massive scene, basically, and shouting and stuff. Because they were lying to me. Number one, they'd taken my passport. Number two, they were lying that they were saying that they hadn't. And it turned out that, yes, later on, they did actually own up to the fact that they had taken it, but they're fucking lying. So, you know, if my parents had actually acted with some authenticity and dignity and integrity throughout this whole thing, I'm pretty sure that most of this stuff could have been avoided. But they were dicks, and they made a situation that might have just been a mild spiritual adventure. They made it into something that was a horrendous nightmare for all of us, basically, by their intolerance and their non-acceptance of my spirituality, my newfound personality. That was what started to drive me to more and more extreme ways of communicating, because they were so intolerant of anything that I presented to them, and so unwilling to understand anything. So they brought it on themselves. Anyway, I got sectioned again, but it came because I slapped my dad a couple of times as well, because they were just being dicks and continuously lying to me, and I was just really angry, and I slapped my dad again. My brother wrestled me off him, and then my mum, I think, called the police, and then I got quite brutally arrested. I got pushed to the floor, arm behind my back, writhing around on the floor, saying, excuse me, that really hurts, because it did really fucking hurt. I felt like the guy was breaking my fucking arm. He was putting like a lot of weight on me as well, on the floor. And I wasn't actually dangerous to anyone else. But yeah, they didn't know that, so whatever. That was a horrible experience, and I actually had some bruising and some cuts from how they manhandled me, and I wasn't resisting arrest. So yeah, that sucked. And then I got taken to the police station. I got given an assessment from like a police doctor kind of thing, and What else? There are other parts of the story that I haven't actually mentioned. Like I went to live somewhere else for a brief period for a couple of weeks, and then I ended up in Stansted Airport for a few days, and I also ended up homeless on the streets of London for a couple of days or nights. So there's some other stuff in there as well. But this is all I'm gonna have to go over this in more detail in subsequent videos. Yeah. And so then I got assessed by this police doctor, and he wasn't really sure that there was anything particularly wrong with me. But then a bunch of other doctors came in, pardon me, from the mental health team. Most of them who had already had a sectioning from before, and they sectioned me again. This time on a section 3, which is, what does it say here? Section 3. Treatment. You can be detained in hospital for treatment for up to 6 months, but it can be extended for longer. Right. Now, I don't know exactly how long my section 3 was. It was minimum, I think, like another 28 days, but it kind of like, it sort of seemed to extend into the distance, because like they could be renewed. So I think to begin with it was a section 3 for a 28-day period, and then it got extended to 3 months possibly, with the option to renew for further 6 months or 9 months or something. I can't remember exactly, but I ended up in the second hospital, which was Ascot, in Ascot, and it was Heatherwood Hospital, Ward 12, psychiatric ward there. And so I got kind of put in the back of the police van, to get to the police station in the first place. And I screamed in the back of the police van. Then I'm just going through the story again. I got to the police station, got seen by the police doctor. He was kind of like, he was gross, by the way. I felt this really pervy thing coming from him. And then got sectioned by the normal team of doctors and put into Ward 12 of Heatherwood Hospital. So I went from home to the police van, to the police station, to hospital. And it was very bizarre. I'd been to so many different places so quickly. I was from the place that I was staying, to this house, to the back of the police van, to the police station, to the police doctor room, to then being stuck back in the police van, off to Heatherwood Hospital, being escorted into the hospital by the police. And then I got shown around the hospital. I got shown to my bedroom. And there I was, and I got a new pamphlet with all information about it. One of the important points was that I had the right to do a mental health tribunal, which is to contest the terms of my stay, as in to say that they got it wrong kind of thing, and to take it to a mental health tribunal, which is a kind of panel of doctors and staff, whatever, who you do sort of a mini kind of hospital court type of thing, where you present a case and stuff, and you can get your section revoked if it turns out that the opinions of the doctors who sectioned you have turned out to be misguided or ill-informed or something. So you get to present a case, and you get I got an advocate to help me present my case, and like an extra doctor to give a second opinion on the evidence and stuff like this. So I did that, but I was in that second hospital unit for 2.5 months. I always remember it's 72 days because I counted them afterwards. I didn't count them at the time, but I counted it up afterwards. I was like, that was 72 days solid in the hospital. Although towards the end of it, I was getting more and more leave to spend more time outside of hospital, like 4 hours. It was like 1 hour to begin with just a hospital staff member out in the grounds. Then I was allowed out by myself around the grounds. Then I was also allowed out with my parents for an hour or a few hours, 4 hours, something like that. And then I eventually got to be able to stay overnight, I think, outside, and then just go back in the daytime or something. and then I just got discharged completely back to my back to living at home, and with the mental health team, community mental health team, looking after me. Yeah. Okay, so that's a little overview of what I'm going to have to talk about in more detail, because this is the meat of it. This is the real meat of the story, which is where I'm in the hospital, because this is kind of the purpose of this story, is to get to this point. Oh, this is like the sort of hub of everything. These two hospitalizations. So the hospitalization, the first one, and then escaping. Then the living with my friend's house, living at my friend's house, and all the adventures I went on while I was there. And then being hospitalized the second time, because it's like that's the hub. These hospitals are like the hub of I suppose the beginning of the end of all the chaos and the madness, from an outside perspective anyway. Yeah. And also it was a pretty horrendous experience in various ways, because I felt incredibly trapped and depressed and suicidal while I was in these hospitals. And but then again, it was a very rich experience as well, because there were so many different people who I met in there, all nutty in one way or another, who I would never have got to meet in normal life. So there's a lot to be said about these hospital stays, and I will want to take a long amount of time if I can, yeah, to talk through it. So this video is amazingly long. I'm glad I did it though. Okay, 11:11, 1:11. Bye.